March 27th, 1964. A cold spring evening settles over southern Alaska. In the city of Anchorage, people are finishing their workday. Some are returning home from work. Children are playing in the streets, and families are preparing for dinner. In the harbor, fishing boats gently sway on the water. Shops are still open, and the usual evening traffic moves along the roads. No one suspects that in just a few minutes, this quiet evening will turn into one of the most terrifying moments in the region's history. Deep beneath the ground, along the boundary of tectonic plates near the coast of Prince William Sound, pressure had been building for decades. Enormous sections of the Earth's crust were slowly pushing against each other. And at 5:36 p.m., everything changed. The ground began to move. At first, it was a slight tremor, the kind that residents of Alaska sometimes feel. But within seconds, the shaking grew stronger. Houses began to creak. Streets started to crack. And people ran out of buildings trying to understand what was happening. What had begun as an ordinary evening was turning into a catastrophe that would go down in history as the 1964 Alaska earthquake, one of the most powerful earthquakes ever recorded on Earth. The Great Alaska Earthquake was the most powerful earthquake in the history of the United States and the second strongest ever recorded after the Valdez earthquake. It had a magnitude of 8.4 on the Richter scale, or 9.2 on the Kanamori scale, with its epicenter in College Fjord in the northern part of Prince William Sound, about 120 kilometers from Anchorage. The epicenter was located in the Prince William Sound region. The tremors were felt across a vast area, from southern Alaska to Canada. The ground did not simply shake. It rose and fell in massive sections. In some places, the land was uplifted by more than 10 meters, while in others it subsided and dropped below sea level. The event occurred on Good Friday, and is known in the United States as the Good Friday earthquake. Anchorage became one of the most heavily affected cities. Houses, schools, roads, and bridges began to collapse right before people's eyes. The asphalt cracked, buildings tilted, and entire neighborhoods slid down slopes. One of the city's districts, known as Turnagain Heights, was almost completely destroyed due to a phenomenon called soil liquefaction. This ground lost its strength and turned almost into a liquid, causing buildings and trees to sink and lean over. However, the destruction on land was only part of the disaster. The earthquake triggered a series of powerful tsunamis. Massive waves rose in the Gulf of Alaska and began spreading across the entire Pacific Ocean. In some places, the waves reached heights of over 30 meters. Coastal villages were washed away in just a few minutes. The port city of Valdez was especially hard hit. A tsunami wave struck the harbor almost immediately after the earthquake. Ships were overturned, docks were destroyed, and buildings were swept into the sea. Many people ended up in the water among debris and freezing waves. The tsunami did not stop at Alaska. The waves reached the west coasts of the United States, Canada, and even the Hawaiian Islands. In some cities in California and Oregon, piers and waterfront buildings were destroyed. People watched as the sea suddenly pulled back, exposing the ocean floor, and then returned as a massive wall of water. Despite the incredible power of the earthquake, the death toll was relatively small compared to other disasters of similar magnitude. A total of 131 people died. Most of them were victims of the tsunami rather than the ground shaking itself. The cause of this earthquake is related to tectonic plates. Off the coast of Alaska, the Pacific plate slowly slides beneath the North American plate. This process is called subduction. For decades, pressure builds up in the Earth's crust until one day it is suddenly released in a massive rupture. After the disaster, large-scale scientific studies began. Scientists examined changes in the coastline, the movement of tectonic plates, and the behavior of soil during the earthquake. These studies helped researchers better understand the mechanisms behind the most powerful earthquakes. As a result, building codes in seismic regions were improved. Tsunami warning systems were developed, and new methods for monitoring earthquakes were created. Today, the 1964 Alaska earthquake remains one of the most important events in the history of seismology. It showed just how powerful the forces of nature can be, and how important it is to prepare for such disasters in advance. After the earthquake, the residents of Alaska faced a long and difficult recovery. Many roads were destroyed, ports stopped functioning, and entire neighborhoods became uninhabitable. In some places, the land had sunk so much that former districts ended up permanently underwater. People had to rebuild the infrastructure almost from scratch. The military rescuers and volunteers from across the country arrived to help. They delivered food, medical supplies, and temporary housing. Despite the cold climate and difficult conditions, rescue operations continued for weeks. Many families lost their homes, but through collective effort, the cities were gradually able to recover. Scientists also began carefully studying the phenomenon of so-called megathrust earthquakes. Before 1964, such events were poorly understood. The Alaska disaster became an important example of how tectonic plates move and what consequences can occur when they suddenly shift. Today, the memory of those events is preserved in museums, documentary films, and scientific research. For the people of Alaska, it is not just a historical fact, but a reminder of how fragile human civilization can be in the face of the forces of nature. One of the most important researchers was George Plafker, an American geologist and seismologist who played a key role in understanding the disaster. After conducting extensive field studies in the region affected by the earthquake, Plafker concluded that the most powerful earthquakes are caused by massive fault movements along convergent plate boundaries. At the time, the theory of plate tectonics was not yet fully accepted by the scientific community. Plafker's research provided some of the strongest evidence supporting this theory. His work showed that the Pacific plate was slowly sliding beneath the North American plate in a process known as subduction, building enormous pressure over decades before suddenly releasing it in a massive earthquake. Later in the late 1960s, Plafker also participated in further research on major earthquakes in Chile, helping scientists better understand how similar tectonic processes occur around the world. For his groundbreaking research, Plafker received major scientific honors. In 2017, he was awarded the Penrose Medal from the Geological Society of America and the Harry Fielding Reed Medal from the Seismological Society of America. George Plafker passed away on April 2, 2026, at the age of 97. His work remains one of the most important contributions to the scientific understanding of great earthquakes and the powerful tectonic forces shaping our planet. Today, the region where the 1964 Alaska earthquake occurred looks calm and beautiful, but traces of the catastrophe can still be seen. The epicenter of the earthquake was located in the area of Prince William Sound, a vast inlet on the southern coast of Alaska. Today, this area is part of national forest lands and is known for fishing, ports, and maritime trade. However, the landscape still preserves the consequences of the earthquake. In some places, the coastline changed forever. Huge sections of land were lifted by dozens of feet, while others sank below sea level. Because of this, many coastal forests were flooded by salt water. Dead tree trunks standing in the water still remind visitors of where dense forests once grew. Some settlements had to be completely relocated. For example, the city of Valdez was rebuilt several kilometers away from its original location after the disaster, because the old port became too dangerous following underwater landslides and tsunamis. Today, the largest city in the region, Anchorage, has been fully rebuilt. Most of its buildings were constructed after the earthquake and follow strict modern seismic safety standards. The city now has memorial sites and parks dedicated to the events of 1964, where visitors can see the remains of landslides and learn about the disaster. The region remains one of the most seismically active places on the planet. Earthquakes occur here regularly, although most of them are much weaker. Because of this, Alaska has one of the most advanced earthquake monitoring and tsunami warning systems in the world. Today, Prince William Sound is once again full of life. Fishing companies operate in the area, tourist cruises travel through the fjords, and the port of Valdez has become an important terminal for the Trans-Alaska Oil Pipeline. But the memory of the events of 1964 remains part of the region's history. Local residents often say that the nature of Alaska is beautiful, but it is never completely safe. The land that once rose and sank by dozens of feet in just a few minutes is a powerful reminder that the forces shaping our planet can change the world at any moment. March 27, 1964. In a few terrifying minutes, the ground beneath Alaska changed forever. When it stopped, everything looked different. Today, Prince William Sound is calm, and Anchorage and Valdez have been rebuilt. But deep underground, tectonic plates still move, and someday, the Earth will move again.